Hi friends, it's me,
The Cozy Zone.
and today let's visit national monuments in Singapore that you probably don't know. Together. From him is this video. Let's go.
Hey Cozy Homies, welcome back to the Zone. For our very first episode of the Cozy Cultural Catch-Up, we will be exploring the birthplace of modern Singapore, right here at the mouth of the Singapore River.
Yes, first episode. If you want to watch more, visit his channel and support him.
The very first national monument we'll be visiting is Fullerton Hotel. It is situated at Mount Zero, from which all roads and distances are measured and all addresses take their bearings from this point. Back in 1825, the current Fullerton Hotel was named Fort Fullerton after the first governor of the Straits Settlements, Sir Robert Fullerton. It was built to protect the Singapore River and all the trading activities taking place there.
So you must recognize that centuries of history, right?
Yeah, lots of history involved in this.
Centuries?
However,
Centuries?
the local merchants were afraid that their nearby warehouses would be prone to military attacks, causing the fort to be demolished by the colonial government in 1865. In the early 1920s, plans were made to build a post office building on the same site. Constructions began and the new Fullerton building was declared open in 1928. Back in the day, the General Post Office occupied the basement and first floor of the Fullerton building, with facilities like sorting rooms and offices. There used to be a postal counter that was 300 feet long, or around 90 meters, that ran from the main entrance of the post office to the side of the building facing Fullerton Road. The upper
It's all posts?
Yeah, they are post office. There was a post office last time.
Wow, I got to be honest, I've never seen a past historical post office before.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
upper floors of this building were occupied by the Singapore Club, which was an exclusive European, all-male club that admits only members of the top echelon in Singapore. Fullerton building served an important role to bridge Singapore with the world.
Top 1%.
No. The top 0.1%.
No, yeah, 0.1%.
Since mail was the main mode of long-distance communication back then. There was even a tunnel connecting the General Post Office to the nearby pier under Fullerton Road to enable a seamless transfer of mail between the post office and the ships. During World War II, then Governor of the Straits Settlements Sir Shenton Thomas sought refuge with his wife in the Singapore Club. It is also here where Lieutenant Arthur Percival, then General Officer commanding Malaya, informed Sir Thomas about the British surrender to the Japanese. Very quickly, the Japanese occupied the Fullerton building and based their military administration there. Their civilian administration was based in the former City Hall, not too far away from Fullerton building. After the war, government officers and the Singapore Club made their way back to the building, with the General Post Office remaining there until the 1990s. As Singapore gained self-governance in 1959, many key government departments are housed in this building as well. These departments include the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, Economic Development Board, and more. Many pioneer leaders of the Singapore government started their careers here too. For instance, former Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Goh Keng Swee used to work here as the Minister of Finance, and former President Mr. S.R. Nathan was an officer in the Ministry of Labour. From the 1950s to the 1980s, many political rallies delivered by founding Prime Minister Mr. Lee Kuan Yew were also held in front of the Fullerton building at Fullerton Square. In 1996, the government announced that Fullerton building would be made into a hotel. As such, Fullerton Hotel was...
So it went from like a top 1%, sorry. The top 0.1% only club to a more inclusive environment for all.
It becomes more of like a holding office for government ministries basically.
So it's no longer only just the top 0.1%.
Yeah.
That's nice. More inclusive, more open to others.
Hey.
was officially opened in 2001 by then Prime Minister Mr. Goh Chok Tong, who also happened to work in this building under the Economic Planning Unit during the 1960s. As we exit the main entrance of Fullerton Hotel, we'll be faced with the oldest surviving suspension bridge in Singapore.
It's a very informative video. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I learned a lot from this video.
Kavanagh Bridge. It links the commercial side of the Singapore River bank to the government side. We will find out more about these government buildings after we cross this bridge. Before Kavanagh Bridge is being built, There is a ferry that brings people across the river, as well as a footbridge that requires a small fee to cross. This bridge was built in 1869 by Indian convicts who have also designed other historical landmarks in Singapore like the Istana and St. Andrew's Cathedral. Immediately after the bridge was placed on the river, Indian soldiers employed by the British were tasked to march up and down the bridge to test its stability. A defining feature of this bridge would definitely be this pretty starking warning sign placed at both ends of the bridge. It prohibits anything weighing above 3 CWT or around 152 kg to cross the bridge.
Oh, okay. To all cattle and horses.
Yeah. Because they don't want animals and cars to cross the bridge basically.
Okay. So bicycle can?
I guess, but there are no bicycles back then yet, right? 1800s? I don't know.
Oh no, there was like an old bicycle.
Okay, old bicycles maybe.
But it's not widely used lah.
Yeah, not very widely used.
This would mean that only pedestrians could use this bridge, since most vehicles and grown cattle would have exceeded this weight limit. Moving on, we will find ourselves right in front of the Asian Civilizations Museum, the former Empress Place building. This building was built in 1864, once again by convict labour. This is because the engineer behind the design of this building happened to be the superintendent of convicts. After its completion in 1867, many government departments made their way to set up their offices here. Some of these departments include the Secretariat, the Treasury, Inspector General of Police, and more. Thus, the building is generally referred to as government offices, and its name Empress Place Building only came about in 1907 after a nearby pedestrian space named Empress Place.
1907, more than 1 century ago.
Yeah, it's more than a century.
That's old. Wow.
Empress Place Building continued its role as a government building even after Singapore's independence in 1965, housing various governmental bodies like the Citizenship Registry and the Immigration Department. The governmental departments eventually evacuated the building in the 1980s and it reopened in 1989 as a museum specializing in Asian culture. Right next to the former Empress Place building stands the Arts House, which is the former Parliament House. One cool fact about this building before we continue: it is possibly the oldest survivor building in the whole of Singapore. This building was
Wait. Oldest surviving building?
Yeah. It's built in like 1820 something. That's like right after Sir Stamford Raffles reached Singapore.
Alright, let's watch it one more time. I'm just very curious about it.
One cool fact about this building before we continue: it is possibly the oldest survivor building in the whole of Singapore.
Hey, wait a minute. You said oldest survival building.
Did I? Oh, okay.
Let's watch it one more time. Okay. Oldest survival or
Right next to the former Empress Place building stands the Arts House, which is the former Parliament House. One cool fact about this building before we continue: it is possibly the oldest survivor building in the whole of Singapore.
Survival?
Survival as in like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, zombies.
I guess it's older surviving. Yeah, older surviving.
This building was built in 1826 as a private residence for a Scottish merchant named John A. Maxwell. However, due to some administrative oversight, the building could not be enjoyed as a private residence because it was built on a piece of land that Sir Stamford Raffles had set aside for public use. Thankfully, Maxwell was willing to lease his house to the British administration, and the building was eventually acquired by the British East India Company. Maxwell's house was initially being used as a courtroom for the Supreme Court, and soon other governmental departments like the Land Office and offices of the Resident Councillor moved in to occupy the building. However, the loud noises from a nearby boatyard were deemed undesirable by the Supreme Court, and they eventually moved out to the newly built Supreme Court building in 1939. After World War II, Maxwell's house served as the Department for Social Welfare and was subsequently renovated to house the Legislative Assembly as Singapore gained partial internal self-governance in 1955.
I just like it that you are teaching your audience.
I learned a lot. I want to share this knowledge with everyone. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Singapore gained full independence in 1965, Maxwell's house went on to become the Parliament House. In present times, the former Parliament House has been converted to the Arts House that frequently hosts art and cultural activities. Alright, before we continue, let's go for a quick bite.
Hey cozy homies, welcome back to the zone. So right now we're at the food segment of our very first episode of the Cozy Cultural Catch-Up. And for our very first episode, I want to introduce everyone to this traditional breakfast that we have in Singapore. I suppose this is a very common breakfast for people in the past back then, and they usually eat this to start their day. So I think it's very symbolic for us to do this on our very first episode where we start off the series with a good traditional breakfast.
Start off with a good traditional breakfast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to watch the future you, the future hungry you, watching
The hungry me in the past.
So right now I'll share with all of you what are some key components of a traditional breakfast.
Alright, so this is what I've ordered and got today. So for me, I think what's the most important part of a traditional breakfast is a good cup of tea or coffee. So for me, I don't drink coffee, but I love tea. So in Singapore, how we address tea and coffee, right, is that coffee is called kopi, tea is called teh. Alright, and over here we have my favorite kaya toast. So let's take a look what's inside kaya toast. So yes, kaya toast, right, is actually basically using kaya, which is sweet jam or paste.
a more proper definition. You read it.
Kaya is a very sweet coconut custard made with coconut milk and sugar, thickened with egg, and often flavoured with pandan leaf. Very
Great
flavorful.
job.
Yay!
It's quite yummy actually. It's very yummy.
Kaya is good.
It's made out of coconut,
10 more minutes.
and also we have a piece of butter in it. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the kaya, the green pasty looking thing around, and also the piece of butter right in the middle. And this is so tasty and delicious. The toast is like toasted to perfection and it's going to be very crispy. And moving on, we have this thing called soft boiled eggs, where you know the egg yolks and egg white are made to be slightly solidified, but they're still somewhat in a liquefied state. And later I'll open it up and show you guys how it looks like. And to go with the soft boiled eggs, we have soya sauce and pepper. So we just add in a bit of it and it becomes this nice gooey eggy mixture, which is perfect. So these are the key components of a traditional breakfast, and yay, let's dig in!
Let's eat.
More food again. The duration of food takes a huge portion of your video, isn't it?
I mean, this is a good opportunity for everyone to learn about traditional local cuisine. I think it's important to talk about the history of food in Singapore as well.
True.
Jiggly!
True. Doesn't it feel weird that you're hungry right now and you're watching your younger you?
I'm always hungry, so there's no difference.
I'm not gonna lie, after watching this, I'm hungry.
Yay.
Now let's head back to Fullerton Hotel real quick. Right next to Covenant Bridge stands Anderson Bridge. It was officially opened in 1910 with a purpose to ease the heavy volume of trade and traffic occurring on Covenant Bridge. This bridge is named after Sir John Anderson, another governor of the Straits Settlements. He played a quintessential role in shaping Singapore to become a world-leading shipping port. Sir Anderson fixed the Singapore currency against the gold standard to stabilize the currency and created public back lanes to help mitigate the issue of overcrowding and poor sanitation in the city. One interesting feature of this bridge is a piece of red granite stone placed at one end of the bridge. It is imported from Aswan, Egypt, and is inscribed with the names of those who have contributed to the construction of this bridge.
That's quite cool. This governing historical facts is quite cool.
Yeah, honestly, without all these governors, right, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
That's very true. Much respect to them.
As you cross Anderson Bridge, we will be greeted by one of the most beautiful landmarks in Singapore. This national monument comprises Victoria Theatre, Victoria Concert Hall, and the iconic Clock Tower. Let me share more about each building individually, starting with the Victoria Theatre. Victoria Theatre started out as the Town Hall upon its completion in 1862. It was managed by the municipal commissioners who have their offices on the ground floor, with a social hall on the upper floor. Victorian Concert Hall was formerly known as Victoria Memorial Hall and was built in 1905 next to the Town Hall in memory of Queen Victoria, who passed.
So it's more than a century ago.
Yeah, these buildings are really old.
The very fact that you're mentioning about Queen Victoria is like, wow, it's old.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's to commemorate the death of Queen Victoria, and therefore they built Victoria concert hall, Victoria Memorial Hall back then.
There have been a queen, then a king, then queen, then now it's King Charles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, so long ago, right?
That's a lot of important historical figures.
Passed on several years before. The 54-meter high clock tower connecting the Town Hall and Victoria Memorial Hall was also built in 1905, but the clock was only set in motion on 1st February 1907 by the Duchess of Connaught, Princess Louise Margaret of Prussia. Following the completion of Victoria Memorial Hall, the Town Hall was officially remodeled and renovated to become the Victoria Theatre in 1909. During the Japanese occupation, Victoria Memorial Hall was converted to a makeshift hospital to treat wounded patients of the Japanese air raids. When the Japanese took control over these buildings, Victoria Theatre became the heart of cultural life for the Japanese community, with public performances being showcased at Victoria Memorial Hall. After the war crime trials were held in the Memorial Hall between 1946 to 1947. In 1953 and 1955, two public meetings for the Randall Commission were held in the Memorial Hall.
Wow, so much have happened within these halls.
Yeah.
Hold a lot of significance, historical significance.
Yeah, these walls have a lot of history, capturing historical moments of Singapore's past.
These meetings were organized to review the constitution of the colony of Singapore in preparation of its independence. Moreover, the pilot television broadcast service in Singapore, Television Singapura, was launched here in 1963. By 1980, Victoria Memorial Hall was reopened as Victoria Concert Hall and became the home to Singapore Symphony Orchestra. There are many intricate details all over the buildings. The walls are carved with the images of festoons, which are beautiful bundles of fruits, flowers, and ribbons. Other notable carvings here include an oval shield motif with the letters V, R, and I that stands for Victoria, Regina, which is Latin for Queen, and Imperatrix, which means Empress.
Okay, Regina is queen. King is...
Rex.
Good job. I
Yes.
can't test you.
Another key feature many people overlooked here is located right at the top of the clock tower. A replica of Queen Victoria's crown was placed here in 2014, right at the original spot where an actual crown stood back in the day. The original crown was removed in 1959 when Singapore gained full internal self-governance. The final bridge of the three national monumental bridges is the Elgin Bridge, which is within walking distance from the former Parliament House. Here's a quick fun fact. The present-day North Bridge Road and South Bridge Road were actually named with reference to this bridge. It was built in 1929 on the very site where the first ever bridge on the Singapore River stood, back in the 1820s.
Oh my gosh, just one quick question. A lot of fun facts involved. It's very educational, informative. How long do you spend on it? 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 2 months?
I think probably 2 months to prepare for this.
Wow.
But
Much
I have fun learning about all these facts. So yeah.
Much respect.
4 other bridges were built at the same site throughout the years, but they were all demolished as they showed signs of deterioration. The final Elgin Bridge, in comparison, was made of reinforced concrete and has 3 bowstring arches. One interesting feature of this bridge is the medallion of a palm tree and a lion, which are part of the municipal crest of old Singapore. I guess this medallion speaks for itself. The singer in Singapore means lion, and the palm tree represents the good tropical vibes here. As we walk along Elgin Bridge, we will find ourselves looking at a very popular Instagram photo spot, the iconic former Hill Street Police Station with rainbow-coloured windows all over.
Wait a minute. Do you just call it iconic Instagram location?
Yeah, many people take Instagram photos there.
True, you could have just introduced it differently.
Okay.
Before we talk about the building, let's learn more about how the police force in Singapore is established. When Sir Stamford Raffles first stepped foot in Singapore in 1819, he only brought along 12
wait. This special
Raffles
effect-
first stepped foot in Singapore in
special effect,
1819, he only brought along 12 policemen who were not very well trained and were poorly paid. This is not desirable, especially in the time when gang-related crimes are prevalent.
Wow, 12 police officers. in the entire country.
Yeah, only 12 policemen.
It's not a country, it's a colony.
Colony, I guess. Yeah, colony.
Only 12?
Only 12. Only 12.
All this was set to change when Thomas Dunman was appointed as the first Commissioner of Police in 1843. He paved the way to enhance training quality and welfare of policemen and helped to grow the local police force. Very soon, existing quarters became too small to accommodate the growing population of police officers. As such, the British administration then built a 6-storey tall Hill Street police station in 1924, which was the biggest and grandest of its kind in the whole of Malaya.
And it still stands right now.
Still standing.
The ground floor housed the police station, a parade square, instruction ground and garages. The upper floors were apartments for police officers, including apartments for European inspectors, which were some of the most luxurious flats in Singapore.
Very
The roof of
luxurious.
So, case in point, let's just acknowledge the fact that back in the days, I mean, as in hundreds of years ago, racism was a fact, you know. So,
It was a
when you are an Amor, back in the days, come to Singapore, you'll be treated as a VIP. Very, very, very important people lah.
Yeah,
A century ago. Which I'm glad right now, in which people are less and less racist among peoples. We are all human beings.
Yeah, and Singapore's a multiracial, multicultural society, and I'm so proud of that.
We are all human beings. Yeah. I mean, human race lah.
this building also housed playgrounds for the officers' children. During the Japanese occupation, the Japanese administration tried to camouflage this building with brown paint to prevent it from being targeted for air raids by the Allied forces. In 1949, 4 years after the end of World War II, the coat of brown paint was replaced by pearly white paint. The police continued to occupy the building after the war until 1980. From 1983 onwards, some departments of the civil service moved in. They include the National Archives, Board of Film Censorship, and the Prison Welfare Service Unit. Currently, Old Hill Street Police
So, anyways, you might be thinking prison welfare service unit, right? Because back in the days, if you don't have that unit, prison is.
Yeah.
Case in point, centuries ago.
Centuries ago. I'm grateful for the reforms and the changes we have now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not a few centuries ago. It's kind of bad. So that we can learn from history.
Yeah.
Station is home to the Ministry of Communications and Information, as well as the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. Of course, we can't end this video without talking about the iconic windows of this building. There are a total of 927 windows here, and the rainbow color theme only became a reality in 1999. For our next episode, we'll be continuing our journey down the street, and we'll be visiting a national monument right next to the Old Hill Street Police Station. Do subscribe.
So comment. Sorry. Comment your guesses down below.
To the channel and stay tuned for the next episode of the Cozy Cultural Catch-Up.
Bonus scenes.
Something like bloopers there. Sculptures along the Singapore River. Yes.
These are not bloopers. These are like other scenes that I didn't include.
But you don't know
sculptures.
But you don't know how to include into them lah.
Yeah.
The cat's playing out. Meow.
It's very cute.
我们一起学猫叫，一起汪。
He's jumping into the river. Whee!
Such an important sculpture.
Yeah.
Show the life back then. Like centuries ago back then.
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah. Inside the Parliament chamber. No, it's a museum, right?
It's a museum now.
Back then.
And the names of the ministers were all written there as well.
Nice. The last batch of ministers lah.
Yeah. You take a look at our founding father.
Lee Kuan Yew, Prime Minister, number 5.
His seat is right there.
So who's number 4, 3, 2, 1?
No, it's like other ministers, the people in the cabinet.
But why is he number 5? He's a Prime Minister, he should be number 1.
I don't think that's how the seating arrangement works. I think there's an order to it. There's order to it.
Okay.
And it's how it looks like at the podium when you are giving your speeches.
Back in the days lah. Back in the days. It really signifies something important. Oh, I saw this. Was this taken with in the one of the national songs?
I think so. Yeah, I think they
Madras
filmed
in
it.
Singapore.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. Yeah.
This shot is amazing. Just the tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision.
The tunnel vision.
And
Alright.
that's it.
That is just brilliantly awesome.
Thank you so much.
Just one good hint. Can you sing the entire Madras Singapore songs right now? Okay, you take one lyrics, I take one lyrics. It's quite a short song, 1 minute only. Go.
Mari kita rakyat Singapura
Bersama menuju
bahagia
cita-cita kita ya mulia.
berjaya Singapura.
Marilah kita bersatu.
Bersatu, satu,
Bersatu, sorry.
Bersatu. Ya, dengan apa kali? Dengan semangat yang baru.
Semua kita bersatu.
Majulah Singapura.
Madras Singapura.
Yay! Proud Singaporean. Proud to be a Singaporean.
Yeah! Great job. Now let's eat.
Let's eat.
Yeah!